if we fall short of an outcome that we thought we wanted to hit, there's two reasons that it could be. One is that we didn't execute. And I think we need to be, adult enough to own it when we don't execute and say, you know what? I didn't hit my goal this year because I didn't do the work required. Am I serious about this goal? It isn't a question of whether I want it or not. I do want it, but am I serious enough to do the work? And then the second reason I maybe don't hit it is that I don't really want it. And so I think it's okay to take a look at it after you receive more input from life and say, no, that's not really what I wanted. I want this. And I am executing, but I'm executing against a different mission. And I think it's important to edit that plan as that new information comes in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of View from the Top, where we help family-first business owners and entrepreneurs get through the valleys and up the mountain to their very own view from the top. We're glad y'all listened in today. My name is Wally, and I've got Big A with us as the host, not just today, but every week. Big A, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's such a great day. Hopefully you've had a good one. You're getting ready for a little hunting trip, right? You pretty excited?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, man. I'm trying to do this for 2 years, get back to New York to do some hunting where I grew up with my brother. So COVID kind of put a stink in that. And then last year I got sick and the flu and stuff. So I'm looking forward to get back, spend some time with him. And he's got some pictures of some big deer and a bear even this year on the property.
Bear?
So, man, I'm looking.
I didn't see the pictures of the bear, but I saw the deer. You're going to be out there hunting something that can hunt you. And so like you don't go in before daylight, do you? Or do you?
Absolutely, man.
You got something besides your rifle? You got a handgun or something on you? I mean,
I'm a little nervous. I have one and I have I had a carry permit in Michigan, but now we're in Tennessee. So you don't need one.
Yeah.
And,
I wouldn't need a permit. A bear's out there. I don't care anything about a permit. I'm carrying a gun with me. It's like,
but I mean, I don't want to take my handgun to New York. They got some really strict laws.
I'd have to get a new co-host for the show if you were to get caught with that gun up there in New York.
Well, maybe that's a good thing. Man, that's a good thing.
I don't know. I have to think about that. Maybe I'll encourage you to carry a gun with you. I don't know. We'll see. But
no, it's all good. No. You're looking good today, though. You got a nice shirt on today.
I should look good. It's your fault.
Not my fault.
You've cost me a fortune, by the way. I just want to tell you, I got to tell the listeners this little story. So we're in my office, I don't know, a year ago, and we're sitting here and you said, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And I could tell you were nervous. And I was like, what? And he said, well, I don't really want to say this, but we're close friends and we work together and we're building a brand. And you go through, I said, just say it. What is it? What is it you're wanting to say to me? And you said, well, man, we just had our live event. And just to be honest with you, you didn't dress quite up to speed. And I'm like, I started laughing. I said, what do you mean? Well, like your shirts were too big and those baggy jeans you had on. And like you're in front of all these men, you're leading people, you go and speak places. And I don't want to hurt your feelings, but you said, your clothes are old. And I started laughing and you were like sweating over there.
I was, man. I was quite nervous. Actually.
I know you talk about somebody's clothes. I went inside and I told Robin the story and she said, I've been telling you that for years. And it takes somebody that you work with to get your attention. And so, you know what Robin did? I don't even know if I told you this, but she went in my closet. And she's been for years trying to clean out my closet. She's like, please let me go in there. I said, no, I got this one shirt that a buddy of mine, Charlie Haygood, gave me. He went to Maine, Bar Harbor, Maine. He brought me back this T-shirt and it says Bar Harbor on the front. And it is all to pieces. This shirt is literally all to pieces. There's holes all around the collar. Half the sleeve is gone. And I put it on for aggravation. Like if Robin would just be quiet and leave me alone, I'd quit wearing the shirt. But every time I wear the shirt, she complains. So it just makes me want to wear it more. So she's been on me for years to get rid of these clothes. And so I fought her tooth and nail. And then after you told me that, I went, just go do it, Robin. She goes, what? I said, just go clean it out. She goes, well, I'm happy and I'm mad. I said, well, what are you happy about? I'm happy that I'm cleaning out the closet. I said, what are you mad about? She goes, it took Kevin to get your attention. I've been telling you this for decades. And I said, Robin, just go clean out the closet. Kevin, she did. Like she cleaned them. They're gone. Like all my clothes were gone. And then I walked in there. I said, Robin, what'd you do with all my clothes? Don't worry about it. I said, what do you mean don't worry about it? She said, don't worry about it. I gave them away. And I was like sick at my stomach, but I wasn't half as sick as I was when she took me to the mall and we went shopping. And she goes, we'll take this many of this one and this. I said, Robin, we're going to take out a loan to buy clothes. So anyway, yeah, thank you for your compliment about how nice I look today. But it's at my expense, and I hope you're happy is all I got to say.
I'm happy. You definitely have upped your game, man. So well done. And just to be clear, it wasn't about bling or anything like that. I don't want anybody to get that impression. But you definitely look good, man. So way to go. Proud of you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm pretty excited about this next interview. Really, really encouraged by what Tyler has to say. Tyler Jefcoat, yeah, he's just a great guy. He's been in Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind for a long time now. Married, got 2 little girls, owns a company called Seller Accountant, and they work with e-commerce businesses. But the majority of the interview was talking about vision casting and planning. I mean, this guy crushes it. He took a real simple program that we created years ago called Come As You Will Be. And man, he just shredded that thing. He just took it and expounded on it, made it his own. And he's created this amazing life for he and Emily using this Come As You Will Be. And we talk about it at length in the interview. And I think he did a really good job explaining how to cast vision, how to plan, how to do it effectively.
Yeah. He asked this question in there that you ask all the time, which is, what do I want? And he kind of walks through that a little bit, how that shapes, how he kind of walks through that, figures that out for himself using some tools and some questions. And it was really good, man. I think everybody's going to really enjoy this. It
was pretty cool how he pivots. Like he asks himself that question, even more so than I do. Like I thought I asked a lot, but once a quarter, he takes a day and he goes and reevaluates. He says, is this really what I still want? Is this the thing that I'm trying to accomplish? And then he modifies the Come As You Will Be program, and he establishes his new task that he needs to do for the remainder of the quarter and evaluates it again at the end of those 12 weeks. And so It's just pretty cool. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. Be sure to stay in there, listen to it in its entirety. He gives some really good tips towards the end.
Yeah, I think so. Let's get him in here.
Tyler Jefcoat is in the house. Man, I am so glad that you're joining us here today. You know, I call you the planning strategist. Okay. You've been in our organization for a number of years now, and you've done some projects that we're going to dive into in just a few minutes. But before we do that, man, catch us up a little bit, Tyler. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Big A. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate you guys having me here. I mean, a little, you want me to give you a little background?
Give us a little backstory. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about Tyler Jefcoat.
Well, I'm not going to take you all the way back to 1983, Big A, but I give you a brief overview here. So I worked in a ministry nonprofit for a couple of years, had a chance to go back to grad school and started a healthcare company in 2012. And we had a good run, 0 to 100 employees in 4 years. And I was the minority guy. I was the operating partner and got the chance to sell that business in 2017. And my wife wouldn't let me stay home. It's time to get a job again. So I did and started this company, Seller Accountant, which is the company I'm at the helm of now. And I love it. We do 2 things. We do bookkeeping. We do CFO. We only do it for e-commerce brands. I get to get my kids off the bus almost every day.
There you go. That's a big blessing right there. That's cool.
I'm grateful.
That's cool. You know, some similarities in our lives. You and Emily, I think, been married about 13 years now.
We just hit 14, by the way. Last month was 14.
There you go. Congratulations. And then 2 daughters, Maggie and Bonnie.
Right.
And they're about the same age difference as Brooke and Holly, my 2 daughters. And Kevin's got 3 girls. And so, man, we can talk. We should probably make this about how to raise daughters. It may be pretty good. But, hey, before we go forward in your current occupation, I want to go back just for a second. Care to continue? I want to talk about that a little bit. The reason is because, man, what you did, you helped really primarily dementia patients. Yep. And I wanted to talk about that just for a second. Give me a little overview on that company and how that materialized, and then you sold it, and just give us a little background on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's so many businesses start because you get mad at something. And I had 2 of my grandparents, one on my dad's side, one on my mom's side, that just had abysmal experiences in a nursing home. Both of them had a form of dementia. And it just hacked me off. And I was upset. I wasn't real happy in my corporate banking job while I was in grad school. And I had an investor approach me and say, hey, I think there's an opportunity to service this kind of Alzheimer's problem better. How would you feel about joining me? Let's do it. And I didn't know any better. And honestly, my wife didn't know any better. Actually, funny story. I took my dad and my father-in-law hiking through the Grand Canyon for a week back in 2012. And I just asked him the same question. Boys, Emily just quit her job. We just had our first child, got a good job at a big bank, thinking about quitting it, having to stroke a check for $20,000 to pay back the MBA tuition, start a business in an industry I've never been in. What do you say? And what was really cool is that both of these men that I respect so much were like, yeah, you got to do this. This is a great opportunity. And went home and had that same conversation with Emily. And for whatever reason, she just said, I think the Lord's in it. Let's do it. And so we launched the business. We got 33 target customers, not that they actively had some form of dementia, but senior citizens that were feeling anxious about care. We had them come in for a weekend, an over the top kind of focus group kind of weekend. They named the company Care to Continue was their idea. The essence of our brand came out of that workshop that we did and kind of grew from there. We made every mistake you could possibly make. You know, it's I'm supposed to be a finance guy here, Big A. I mean, my degree says I got one in accounting, I guess, but man, I almost crashed that business like every other day for 3 years because I didn't know what I was doing. There's an ethereal level of understanding a principle like cash flow. And then there's the reality of, oh man, I need to make payroll tomorrow. I'm not sure I'm going to make it. And so thankfully through some trials, we got to where we were healthier and had the chance to exit the business and kind of move on to something that I really get to truly own. And that's where we are now.
That's very cool. Think about what you learned in that process, though, right? Yeah. I mean, there was so much, right? We only learn in the valleys. We never learn through success. We only learn through the trials. And you learned a lot of things not to do in your current business. And now you're crushing it on many fronts. You know, years ago when you joined our mastermind, I just kind of was drawn to you to begin with because I love your energy. I love your excitement. I love your ability to really pursue what it is that you're wanting and you stay on task. And we introduced a product called Come As You Will Be in 2023. And you just took that thing, man, and just ate it up. I mean, it's radically impacted the way that you cast vision today and how you plan. Dive into that a little bit. Tell us what you liked about it. Tell us what you didn't like about it and how it's impacted your life.
Yeah, I think I really appreciate the question because I can get so focused on maybe this year's task or this year's challenges that I really, even though I'm a visionary naturally, I can get kind of stuck in today's weeds or get kind of bogged down. And I think that exercise, that if you think about this, guys, on kind of a visceral level, making yourself state your future kind of in present tense, like it is December 31st of 2023, and my marriage does look this way, or my body looks this way, or my business has evolved in these ways. And then kind of taking that insight and reverse engineering it to say, okay, well, if I'm going to have $1 million in the bank, I'm going to have to do some things different than I'm doing them right now. What's the first thing? What's the second thing? And so for me, that exercise was so powerful that I now bake it into my rhythm every quarter. I try to get alone for at least a day every quarter where I'm wrestling with those questions. What do I want? Do I still want that stuff that I went public with my ISI brothers, a few years ago? Do I still want that? And what are my current results, my current habits teaching me? Where do I need to adjust? And so I'm just pretty passionate.
Tyler, I'm going to stop you as we go here because I don't want to forget these questions. You just said something really important. You said, what do I want? You ask yourself that question. What is the exercise that you go through in order to determine what it is that you do want? Because it sounds like that maybe it could pivot a little. Maybe it changed. Maybe you eliminated it altogether. Like what was 2 or 3 years ago is not really as important to you today. And tell us the reason that you evaluate this once a quarter.
Yeah, I do think it's important, to your point, Big A, to kind of regularly reassess that question, because the things that you think you want may not stay that way. I'll give you a couple of hard examples of this. 5 years ago, when I was still kind of in the center of that rapidly growing healthcare business. I mean, we hired 50 people in a year in 2014, right? During the middle of that year, I thought that the only picture of success was being the CEO of a $100 million company. Like, that's what I thought. I was like, there's only one path, and it's this one. And as I observed myself as a husband and a father, and frankly, even financially, it just didn't work out that way. That was not the right path for me. And so now, because of the power of that come as you will be exercise, to kind of go back and say, okay, wait a minute. Personally, you said you want to, I'm a big dude. You want to weigh 215. Is that true? Is that what you want to weigh? And then for me, it's kind of going back and then asking that second question. Well, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to do to get there? Does it really matter to you? And I think that's one of the powerful things about having that kind of a vision on paper is it allows you to ask the question and actually even get counsel. Say, hey, guys, thinking about like our mutual friend Kevin, right? Being like, if I want to lose a little weight, Kev, what do I need to do? And he can give us counsel on how to get there. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it's important to have a plan so that you can aim for it and be accountable for executing. But it's also important to hold that plan with an open hand, where every year or so you take a look and say, is this still the path that I'm on? Do I need to adjust it to make sure I'm not aiming at nothing, but aiming where I want to go now?
A lot of people will say, well, if I write it down, yes, then I'm accountable to it. I'm going to do it. And that sounds great. But some people think, well, if I write it down and I change it, then I failed.
Right.
How do you address that for yourself? Like, how do you write something down? I wanted this. Now it's not what I want. So I've not failed, but what? Do you just call it a pivot? Like, how do you process through that?
Well, this is a really good question. I think as we get more information, right, as life goes on, we get more data, we get more information. And so, for instance, to kind of keep the same example, like if I'm thinking about my personal health and I get to the end of this year and I'm like, okay, what I said I wanted was this. Maybe what I said I wanted to work out 7 days a week. And then I've tested that for a few months now. Like, right, I've kind of tried that on for size. And what I realized is actually, I was optimally happy at 5 days a week working out. Maybe that's something I discover. And so instead of beating myself up for not achieving that 7 day a week target, I now know what my real target is. And that same kind of thing could happen financially. I think what's really important though is to look at our results, like really look at
outcomes. It's the outcomes, right? It's what are we focused on the outcomes, or are we focused on, like, at the end of the day, what matter? The results. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Like looking at the outcomes, and if we fall short of an outcome that we thought we wanted to hit, there's two reasons, or maybe there's a lot of reasons, but there's two reasons that it could be. One is that we didn't execute, and I think we need to be, adult enough to own it when we don't execute and say, you know what, I didn't hit my goal this year because I didn't do the work required. Am I serious about this goal? It isn't a question of whether I want it or not. I do want it, but am I serious enough to do the work? And then the second reason I maybe don't hit it is that I don't really want it. And so I think it's okay to take a look at it after you receive more input from life and say, no, that's not really what I wanted. I want this, and I am executing, but I'm executing against a different mission. And I think it's important to edit that plan as that new information comes in.
Tyler, I think you said something really responsible earlier. And again, I don't want the audience to miss it. You said, what am I willing to give up? See, we can't have everything. Robin and I have discussions about our annual goals. And I'm like, hey, I know you would like to do these 3 things, but like we can do 2 of those. Like we can't do all 3. So which one do you want to let go of, right? What is it that you're willing to give up in order for us to accomplish our goal in these 2 areas? A lot of people today want everything. They don't want to work very much. They want to make plenty of money, a lot of safety and security, and protect their relationships. It's just not the reality of where we live, right? I mean, there's things that we have to give up. So yeah, don't miss what he said, because he's really taking serious notations of what he's willing to give up in order to accomplish his goal. Go ahead. I interrupted you in midstream. You had a good thought process.
What a great comment that was, Big A. And it brought to mind one more thing I'll mention here, which is the amount of energy that it takes for me to achieve a goal decreases once I improve my habits. So to your point, if I'm having to white knuckle personal, spiritual, relational, professional, if I'm having to white knuckle all 5 of those categories, I'm not going to hit any of them because I don't have the energy to white knuckle them. But if I can be, and this is what I'm learning about myself, is if I can develop such a great, let's just say morning routine where thank you God for this, but I'm, a bunch of days, more than a year into reading my Bible every morning. I journal every morning. I'm doing the things I want to do habits wise. Well, now I don't have to expend a lot of energy trying to hit that come as you will be. That one's kind of good for a minute. I'm keeping up with it to make sure my results are where I want them. But to your point, I can only focus on winning one battle at a time. And so if I'm meeting with Emily, and if I was having the same conversation with her, it would be, what are the fewest number of things we can focus on to get us the results we want? And are there any things that are in maintenance mode that don't need to be the core focus for this quarter, for this year?
Yeah, again, you just keep bringing up great topics. Is like the willpower is an exhaustible resource, right? Yeah. We can only go so much on grit and determination. And you said that when your habits align, the success is easier, right? It becomes easier because the habits change. The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg wrote that book, and it's really a great resource for those that are listening that want to substitute something in place of a bad habit. And that's kind of what you're saying. I get this dialed in. It's becomes habitual. It's easier to do. I can focus that grit and determination on the next goal. Yeah, I love that. What are some of the goals, the ones that you're willing to share? Like let's talk about the relationship goal, for example. Like what are some of those goals?
Yeah. So for me, relationships, because I'm such I'm naturally a very driven kind of high autonomy guy. I really have to be intentional to not have an agenda, honestly, in some of my relationships. And so I've learned as I've matured that if I really value a relationship, I need to use my strength, which is that I'm an intentional person, to become a better friend or a better husband or a better dad. And so the picture of success for me in relationships is I wanted to have a thriving marriage with Emily. I mean, thankfully, 2023 next year will be 15 years for us, and would love to see our communication continuing to improve. And what's really neat, and I think this is a great, I'm so glad you brought this up, Big A, is that it forced me to ask the question, well, Tyler, what can you do about it? I mean, like, okay, be nice to your wife. Like everyone, I get that, but what are you going to actually do about it? And it allows me to say, okay, well, it looks like we need to start going on some dates, bro. And it looks like we need to create an intentional time each week to check in. And it's amazing, by the way, I just say this parenthetically, just having a 20-minute meeting once a week to make sure we're on the same page in terms of our calendars has improved our marriage substantially and has removed a lot of unnecessary friction. And the third thing that I'm so excited about right now is I have the opportunity to help Emily kind of finally pursue some of her dreams, and that we're looking to maybe buy a business with a dance studio involved where she could do what she's passionate about. And she's given up so much to let me pursue the businesses that I've built. That's been another way to kind of build some excitement in our relationship. So that's my goal relationship wise. And then beyond my marriage, I mean, I don't need 500 friends, but man, do I need to pursue my 15 or 20 my best friends. I need to carve out time to go play games with them and make phone calls. And so for me, again, because I'm kind of more task oriented, I just have a 30-minute block on my calendar every week. That's pretty much non-negotiable now, where I'm going to reach out to at least 2 people with no agenda except to hear how life is going and how I might be able to serve them. Yeah.
Boy, that'll pay dividends in spades. You know, you reaching out to these people proactively, not wanting anything's going to make an indelible impression on your friends, and they're going to really appreciate that. Let's go back to your family just for a second. Maggie and Bonnie, they're 9 and 7, right?
Recently 8 and 10. So we've moved up a year. We're graduating.
Okay. Yeah, graduating. Yeah, I got to update my notes. But what do you do intentionally with that relationship? Like, you're a busy dad, you're running this successful business, Emily's taking a good portion of your time. Like, what do you do intentionally to carve out some time for Maggie and Bonnie?
I think the biggest step forward that I've taken in the last kind of 2.5 years or so since we did the Come As You Will Be, Big A, is just knowing that that's a priority. I know that sounds so simple, but the knowing that I need to turn off work at a certain time each day or most days, and be intentional enough to actually literally, my phone's going to sit in another room. Right. One of the action items was to hire a virtual assistant where I could have somebody else managing my email so that I could really focus more of my energy. Because, and I'll say this for Emily also, nobody in my family ever gets mad if I got to work a 12-hour day a few days in a row. Like, they get it. It's business. But when I'm home, they want me present. And so I think the biggest battle for me is getting present. And when I'm present, a lot of cool stuff flows. We can play family games or talk about deep things together and read books together and stuff like that are fun. But for me, that's not the battle. Once I'm present, that stuff's easy. The presence is the hard thing, because I can get so distracted and so focused on driving the goal. And then I think, well, dang, I'm doing all this because I want to have a good life with my kids.
Right.
Like, what am I doing here? And
right.
stuff. Yeah.
That's right. What's the purpose if you can't do that? Tyler, I know you personally for a long time, and I know you're like Wally and I. You love to work. I mean, you love to see accomplishments. What are the boundaries that you're setting up to protect that family time? So pragmatically, what are some things that you're doing? Is it a certain time? Is there certain guardrails? Are there boundaries that are in place to protect that time so that you can be present?
Yeah, it's thankfully, we haven't had to be quite as dogmatic about it this year, but I think some things that we started, I kind of
as they get older, you will have to, as those girls start getting older, but go ahead.
Well, no, and I think that's actually a good point, because again, my kids are 8 and 10. They're kind of a third, fifth grade, to give you guys an idea. And, getting family dinners 3 or 4 nights a week was easy. And now all of a sudden they're just now old enough, and my wife will trust them. So they'll just walk around the neighborhood and go play. And even with something like that, I'm having to be more intentional to say, okay, guys, hold on now. Monday and Thursday, at least, those are mine. You guys don't get to disappear. We're going to make sure we're together. Another bit of intentionality, I mentioned this a minute ago, but if there are admin tasks that could be offloaded to a VA, that can free up the RAM of your brain so that when you're off, because I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I've had so many days where I do my job, I have 9 meetings, and then all of a sudden I'm up until 9 o'clock at night just doing the admin. And realizing that it's not worth making that extra money when I could hire someone to get that stuff done for me. And that extra RAM, that extra bandwidth is available for my kids. And then just some other small things, like we really do make it a point to be available to put our kids on the bus, eat breakfast with them each morning. That's the one that we kind of haven't been able to screw up yet. Let's just have breakfast together. Those are some of the things that have been good.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. You know what I've learned over the years, Tyler, of being in business for myself now for almost 44 years. Time goes pretty quick. Wow. But I have found that I'm willing to invest the resources into the admin things and try to do what only I can do. And it seems to have made me more productive, right? I'm not as tired because I don't have to stay up till 9 o'clock working on the admin things. I'm more productive during the day, and I can do what only I do, and which generates more revenue as a result of that. And it sounds like you're figuring that out pretty rapidly.
Is there any, Tyler, are there any tips or guidelines that you can get? I'm sure there's quite a few listeners that are like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I want to do that. But they just have no idea. It sounds like that's been a pivotal thing for you. So do you have like some tips or some guides? Things you can help us to get on that path to figure out if that even is a good thing for us?
And just to clarify, you mean specifically kind of carving out more energy for our family relationships?
No, I mean the admin side, like getting an admin, from a business standpoint.
Yeah, I think the kind of going back to the kind of topic of this episode today, if you can get alone and ask whether you're going to choose our 5 categories or not, pick some categories of your life. For us, it's personal, spiritual, relational, professional, financial. And if you can wrestle down to the ground that question, what do I think I want? I may not know for sure, but what do I think I want this part of my life to look like? And then it's just time to realize I'm not Superman. I'm not going to be able to do everything well. And so there's some real practical exercises that you can walk through to say, and by the way, guys, it's a little humbling to look at your calendar sometimes and like actually realize what you spend your time on, right? Like I had my assistant do that and I'm like, man, I'm wasting a whole lot of time doing this or that, right? And I think if as a CEO, if our mindset can be, what's one more thing I can add to my stop doing list every month? And eventually you clump those together and you got a job and you can, have somebody else have a job that they can do it for you. And what's crazy is I found out that the things I hate doing, I used to apologize. I'm like, I'm so sorry. You got to check my email and do my calendar. I realized they love it. Like the folks that I'm hiring that are working there, it's their core joy. They're like, no, man, don't, you go sell. We just want to do this stuff. And so I'm realizing more that it gives me, to your point, Big A, the freedom to operate more in my zone of genius and kind of let them do what they're great at. And it's 1 + 1 = like 5, right? It gives us more productivity and more value and that kind of thing.
Good. Tyler, I'm going to take full advantage of having you here. So I'm going to get all out of you I can get out of you. And I know you've got a lot of experience in the e-commerce space. It's pretty obvious, I think we all would say at this point in time, that we're either headed for a recession or we're in a recession. It's upon us if it's not here. Kind of staying on the vision casting, planning topics kind of agenda, the theme. How do you suggest that your brand owners today be focused, and what should they be focused on during this time? We'll call it a recession, just for the sake of clarity.
Yeah. So, I mean, the market everyone kind of feels like the market has shifted a little bit. I think in the e-commerce industry, we're really kind of see it. It's not just Amazon stock is down. It's not that simple. It's that we actually bought a lot of inventory last year and we're not selling through it as quickly as we used to. And now interest rates are going up. So we're feeling a little stress, and our buddies all sold their businesses for lots of money last year and we can't get anyone to buy ours. And so the question is, what do you do about it? And I'm kind of, as a mindset principle, I believe that the bear market is where you make all of your money in any business. Your ability to really execute as a CEO. Everyone makes money in a bull market. Now it's time to buckle down and do things right. And so, in particular, if you're a brand owner or know any that are in the e-commerce space, now is the time to make sure that you're kind of doing the blocking and tackling. Have I taken time to listen to my customer? Do I know what she really wants? Was I riding the coattails of a COVID bump that maybe I need to now go back and redefine what my goals are as a business? Maybe it's not the right time to sell. I mean, kind of a direct answer to your question. Probably the next year is not the right time to sell an e-commerce business. It's the right time to make sure my house is in order. It's the right time to make sure that I'm selling only great products. It's the right time to make sure I'm taking great care of my customers, because the sun will shine again on the acquisitions market. And when it does, I want to be ready. I want to have my 3 years of pristine financials ready. I want to have a growth trajectory that looks really sexy on the market. And I want to be able to go to market quickly and capitalize when multiples go back up again.
Yeah, that's really good. I know we're not always in good times. And we've done an interview recently with a guy, and we were talking about, we learned during these difficult times. It makes us a better businessman. The CFOs that you deal with today, we talk a lot about mindset in every space. And mindset is important regardless of what you're in. But what kind of mindset do you suggest today that these CFOs that you're working with, what do you suggest that they focus on primarily during these turbulent times?
Yeah, so you think about Warren Buffett's kind of classic mantra is the most important job a CEO does is like choose where the money goes, choose where you allocate your resources. And I think a couple of things that are important if you're wondering if there's going to be a bear market, you're kind of concerned. The first thing is let's have a little bit of extra cash in the bank. Like, this is when things might get a little rocky. Running out of money is the thing that kills businesses very quickly. And so having a little bit of liquidity, being a little bit more conservative. And then you want to not fall into the trap of losing money selling products. In other words, let's just think theoretically, if less people are buying this pen that I'm holding here than they were a year ago, it would be crazy for me to spend triple the advertising budget to sell it just so I can stock out and then pay triple the container fees to rush order it from China so it gets here in time to sell it. In other words, if the market really is sobering a little bit for your particular category, it's okay to get in line with where the market is. Prioritize actually making money over just growing your sales. And you'll know when the market is shifting and it's time to put your foot back on the gas. Final thing I'll mention here, Big A, and I feel like you've taught me a lot about this over the last couple of years, but the time to buy something is when the market is weird and it kind of corrects, right? And so now is a great time to have some money, to have some liquidity, to have a plan, to understand what your targets are. Because I can almost guarantee you that at some point in the next 18 months, whether it's real estate or some other kind of asset, the time to get involved and to buy things when they're kind of more on sale is coming. And so I was talking to one of the guys in my ISI group, Big A, Justin, who's thinking it might be buying small businesses. That might be the thing that's going to happen over the next few years. Well, I don't know. But my point is having a little bit of liquidity, having a little bit of cash available, you may find yourself in a really powerful position to pick up a asset that's a little bit struggling, and you can bring it back up and actually make a good return on your investment.
Tyler, it might not be a fair question, but what percentage of e-commerce sellers are in a good position that they could ride out this bear market versus a good percentage of them may not make it, and which would give somebody an opportunity to buy into that, not to capitalize on something that went bad for them, but just you live in that space, you see it. Is the vast majority prepared for that or not?
And this is a great question, because I think what we really want to know is, are they prepared, financially? Could we weather some lean months? And if we can weather some lean months, are we emotionally prepared? Because I was talking to a guy that's going to do roughly $700,000 in revenue this year. I was literally just a couple hours ago. And he was like, Tyler, we're making money. I think we're good, but I'm just tired. I'm tired of hustling. I'm tired of trying to do this kind of business. And I think when you add to that the possibility that someone's also feeling some cash flow crunch, I do think I don't know what the percentage is, Big A, but I think we're going to see a lot more businesses need to turn over. Now, there's another category. I don't know whether it's there was a lot of Chinese hack shops that popped up over the last 3 years, and some other businesses that were just trying to steal other people's products and resell them. I think you'll see a bunch of those fakers kind of go out of business. But of the real businesses, the ones that are trying to do things right, they're still going to either, some of these guys are baby boomers that are wanting to retire. Some of them didn't time the market a year and a half ago because they got greedy. This is another quick example. I was talking to a brand last week that was offered a 4.5x multiple on profit. So think about 12 months of profit times 4 is what this company was going to pay her to buy this business. And she said no 2 years ago because she thought she could get more. And now the market won't pay her 2x, right? So you think about that. Her business is, and so darn it, I thought I was going to wait things out, and I'm in my 60s. I'm ready to get out of this. And so, that does stink for that lady. We don't wish her any ill will at all. But for those of us who are maybe younger or have a little bit more energy in the tank, there could be an opportunity there to pick up some assets cheap.
It's also a valuable lesson for those that could do well and be satisfied with a 4.5 times multiple, not to take too big a risk. Yeah, bearing the age of the person that's involved. And we got to be careful. It's a fine line. I tell some stories about where I thought I was going to take a hit, waited too long, and lost the majority of it. So give us a little bit more insight in this e-commerce space. Give us some practical insight to when you say it's a multiple times what it used to be. Me and my 2 girls used to own an e-commerce business. And we were paying $3,000 for a container to be, sent here from China with a product we were manufacturing there. And I'm hearing rumblings, I'm not in that industry any longer, that those containers are $15,000 to $20,000 now. Is that right?
Thankfully, they're kind of coming back down at this point, Big A. But yeah, that $3,500 container in 2019 was all of a sudden costing you $24,000. In the middle of 2021. It was unbelievable. And
the landed cost was more than retail.
It was terrible.
So there was no way that you could make it.
Thankfully, it was also, I guess, coinciding with a pretty strong demand bump. Everyone was buying things online. And so, again, there were some brands that really did well. By the way, there's a container ship company called Maersk. And if you go look at their stock tracker over the last 10 years, they were real steady Eddie, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. It was the best thing that ever happened to them because their cost didn't triple. Let me just go ahead and say that. They just jacked up the container cost. And, a lot of our customers here at Seller Accountant paid the price. The ones who made it through, thankfully, they're coming back down. They're not quite down where they used to be, but they're at about $8,000, $7,000 a container now. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, so we're making some progress coming back down. They just passed it on to the end user. You and I and Wally, we were paying the price for all these exorbitant charges that they were charging to get the products here that we want.
That's right.
Tyler, for those that are interested in maybe contacting you to learn more about your business, about the e-commerce space that you're operating in, tell them how they can reach out and get a hold of you.
I'll give you 2 ways. One is our website, selleraccountant.com, is a great way to learn about e-commerce finance. We have a really robust blog. The second place I would say to go is I have a podcast. If you're interested in kind of the intersection of e-commerce and investing, instead of ROI, it's called ROP, Return on Podcast. And we have a weekly episode that's on every podcast platform. And you can search me. Jefcoat with one F is a weird name. So you search it, you'll find me. That'd be a great way to get in touch with us as well.
Tyler, thank you for sharing with us today. As always, man, you continue to share wealths of information. You've really helped us. I'm excited that you were here today, and we'll look forward to seeing you possibly on another interview, and we'll cover some other areas of interest. So thank you for being here today, Tyler.
Thanks, boys.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Tyler is just an amazing guy. You can just hear it in his spirit, man. Everything he says, he's motivational, he's energetic, he's very intentional. And I want you to take some of these tips that he shared with us today and really think through the vision casting and how you can plan the life that you want to live. And it's okay to pivot. He gives us permission in there to really understand what it is that you want so that you accomplish the dreams and goals that you and your family are establishing, so that you can go out and live a life that has this view from the top that you've been searching for.
Hey, thank you all for listening in today. We're so glad you're here. Took the time to listen all the way through today. Be sure to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, maybe it's your first time listening in, or you've listened to a few and just haven't clicked that subscribe button yet on your whatever, wherever you're listening to, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, the website, wherever it is, please click that subscribe button. You'll get notified when a new episode comes out every week. And of course, it comes out with a title, let you know what it's about and who our guest is. We love to get that information every week. If you want to connect with us and learn more about kind of what we do at View from the Top, the easiest way to do that really is through our weekly email called The Climb. Just go to viewfromthetop.com/climb. That's CLIMB. It's a free resource. You can sign up for there. If you read through it the first time and you don't like it, just quickly unsubscribe and we'll leave you alone. But I think you're really going to love it. There's some really good, just once a week, easy to digest, bite-sized chunks to help you as you're working on your business, your family, and being a father and a husband. So check it out, viewfromthetop.com/climb.